This video is brought to you by Raycon. The Idol is a new show created by Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria, as well as Malcolm and Marie. This man has been on a roll these last few years. I did not like Malcolm and Marie, and I thought Euphoria Season 2 was a significant downgrade from the first season. And The Idol is him doubling down on so many of the things that people did not like about those last two projects. It was pitched as a darker version of Euphoria, a look into the evil side of Hollywood. Brought to you by the sick and twisted minds of The Weeknd and Sam Levinson. It's about a famous pop star named Jocelyn, which, by the way, in what world would a mega pop star have the name Jocelyn? And what happens when Jocelyn falls for Tedros, a hilarious name, gotta give him credit for that, who is a club manager slash cult leader. If you've been lucky enough to not be in the know about this show's production, let me quickly recap. It was a disaster. There's a Rolling Stone article that goes into detail about this, but basically there were a bunch of reshoots and rewrites. This is because back in April of 2022, Amy Seimetz, director of She Dies Tomorrow, left the show for mysterious reasons, but one could assume it has something to do with The Weeknd feeling the show was leaning too deep into the quote, female perspective. I'm one of the last people on this platform to talk about this, so I don't think I really need to explain why that's a weird thing to say. It certainly gave the show a bit of a rough start. Again, summarizing this as broadly as possible, about 13 people came forward about how poorly run the whole thing was. Some people came forward defending it, don't get me wrong, but the general vibe seemed to be it wasn't the thing people signed up for. Because basically after Seimetz left, Levinson really went off the rails with the sexual content, apparently. A quote that really sums it up is, "It went from satire to the thing it was satirizing." The first two episodes premiered at Cannes, and Levinson's response to all the controversy boiled down to,
"I think we're about to have the biggest show of the summer."
Just embarrassing. There's enough evidence here to prove the production was a certified bad time, so many have decided to just boycott the show altogether, understandably. But my curiosity got the best of me. I wanted to see what the show was at least trying to do. I wanted to see what came of all of this controversy. I had to see how bad it could get, really. And here's the thing. Most of the criticisms for this have been about the disturbing sexual content and the excessive nudity, as well as obviously the production stuff. The stuff I already knew would be bad going into this, and that I knew would be terribly executed. And yeah, it sucks. Listen, man, I'm not like anti-sex and nudity in movies. A good sex scene can really elevate a movie or show, but this is just lame. It's excessive, boring, and exhausting to sit through. It really does read like Sam Levinson is 14 years old and just discovered he can Google boobs. There's one sex scene in here, the one with Carl Glusman, that I'm assuming is supposed to feel a little exciting and sexy, mostly because it doesn't involve Tedros, but it's still so bad. It's got like every cliche in the book. The cheap fireplace in the background, really. There isn't an attention to the pace or the intimacy. The only thing he's really doing to enhance the experience is putting the camera close to the bodies, which achieves nothing but a disorienting feeling. The thing about these scenes is that because they're obviously the most talked about aspect of the show, The Weeknd has actually come forward defending them for being so uncomfortable. It's the classic, "that's the point" argument. The old, "no, it's supposed to be bad." And the thing is, it's fine if your character is supposed to be an incredibly unlikable sociopath. We're all smart enough to know this isn't a real guy. It's not that. It's the fact that it's hard to take him seriously, to take any of this seriously with the way it's presented. Before I get too deep into this, let's talk about the good things. Let's get those out of the way. I really love the score. I do. Even if Mike Dean's entrance in the show is one of the funniest and cringiest things I've ever witnessed in a show, the man knows how to make some good music. The main theme specifically, I really like it. The murkiness of it and those dark, trappy synths really match this modern Hollywood atmosphere. There's also something tragic about that main theme that helped sell Depp's performance. If the music is that good, it can usually win me over at least a little, and when I heard that theme for the first time during the opening shot of the show, I actually was kind of into it. The shot itself is pretty lame and had about as much depth as Joker, but like Euphoria, it kind of sold me on its atmosphere. That is, until the character started talking like 2 minutes later, immediately snapping me out of it. As far as cinematography goes, I feel the same as I did with Euphoria Season 2. Obviously, the pictures themselves are pretty. They understand how to light a scene. But there are very few shots in here, if any, that seem to be communicating anything to the viewer as far as story goes. I feel like a broken record when I'm talking about Sam Levinson, but again, it would make for a nice perfume commercial, but it doesn't make for compelling TV. In fact, even Euphoria Season 2 has a lot more prettiness than this does. I know this has a lower budget, but they were doing some really exciting things in Euphoria. This just feels kind of bland. I did think some of the performances were pretty good. Rachel Sennett is always good. She walks away from this safe. safe. I also loved seeing Susanna Sun in this after Red Rocket. Her character did nothing but leave a bad taste in my mouth here, but her acting was at least convincing. I also didn't hate Troye Sivan. There's the occasional moment where he overdoes it, but he's mostly good in this, surprisingly. Divine Joy Randolph also saves most scenes she's in. Anytime she shows up, it feels like I can breathe for a second because I know it's not going to be the cringiest thing ever. And lastly, Lily Rose Depp is fine. She really only has one thing going for her, and it's that tear out of the one eye. It gets old after the 10th time. It's kind of the definition of a one-trick pony, but she does have a lot of confidence with her performance that helps sell the fact that she's this huge, troubled pop star. Other than that, I think she's a little wooden and dull. I don't think she is really given much direction, clearly. She just seems like a blank canvas in this show, and that's about all I have to say about the good stuff. While we're talking about performances, we may as well get into The Weeknd, who plays Tedros. He is not a good actor. At all. The only effective thing about this performance is that I want to slap him in the face. I guess he knows how to make his face punchable. And listen, I like The Weeknd. I love his music. He's really great, but this is really bad. I guess I just don't see what he's doing as that threatening in the show. He doesn't sell it. It's gross and cringy, but he isn't the intimidating villain the show needs him to be. I never took him seriously. He looks like he's playing dress up. It reminded me of when I would make little movies in high school and had my non-actor friends act. I could never fully believe it wasn't The Weeknd. And he is kind of the most important character in this show, at least the way they decided to tell this. The entire thing is that he needs to be dangerous yet appealing. He's dangerous because he's appealing, which the same can be said about the sex scenes here. There's a way they could have used sex to draw the viewer into this twisted, abusive world, but the show just simply doesn't have the sauce to make the sex scenes sexy enough to do that, or to make the twistedness twisted enough. Jocelyn's attraction to him needs to make sense, but his performance doesn't really have the manipulative charm required to make this character work. The argument that the creators want you to run with is that she's attracted to the fact that he abuses her because her mom used to abuse her, and this makes her feel close to her mom. Or really, she's using his abuse as inspiration to unlock her own trauma for her songwriting. And listen, this isn't an idea that's completely out there and untouchable. I actually think it's interesting and could have been done well, but Jocelyn is so underwritten and surface level, from what the show is giving us at least, that it's hard to take any of the horrible things that happen to her as anything more than attempts to shock the viewer. The show is trying to communicate the idea that Hollywood stars feel the need to undergo abuse as inspiration for their art, and the fact that they have to create art under a timeline, and that's what leads to this kind of toxic cycle. And this is Jocelyn chasing that through Tedros. I think that's an interesting idea, sure, and I can see glimpses of that story when I'm watching it, but really, at the end of the day, the show that we got is more interested in being provocative, and by the time you reach that finale, I don't feel at all satisfied by any of the twists or by any of the things it's trying to say. This goes back to what we were hearing about before the show even came out, that The Weeknd felt it was leaning too much into the female perspective. In my opinion, if you're gonna tell a story like this, with themes like that, I feel like you need a little bit more female perspective, no? I cannot wrap my head around why you would stray away from the perspective of the main character, the protagonist, who is objectively more interesting and compelling than the abuser of the show, especially when the show is primarily about how Hollywood treats women, I guess. What happens when you do that is what we have here, a show where you kind of just watch a guy continue to do bad things to this person, and it's just gross, but more importantly, it's boring. It's so boring. In the pilot, I thought this would be about a pop star whose career was hanging on by a thread and what happens in the light of a controversy and how she recovers. But instead, the show spends most of its time watching her get abused by this guy and watching him come into the house and take things over. And when it started, I was like, okay, let's see where that goes, but then it just repeats over and over again. We do learn more about who they are. Information about him is slowly revealed through the 5 hours. We also learn more about Jocelyn. It's hinted at that Jocelyn has other hidden motives. We don't really get to see them or understand them because the show seems less interested in that and more interested in Tedros. For how drawn out only 5 episodes feel, it's just empty in the end. The show will write off that it's a satire about Hollywood and the industry and what it's like to be famous, but it's really just about a cult leader doing cult leader things. It's really just a shitty crime show that's shot on film to make it look like something highbrow. I know a season 2 was in mind while making this, so I know there's more to this than just what we have here, but I really did leave this season feeling empty and like I had just wasted so much time. We can talk about the controversies regarding the production of it, the excessive nudity, the Weeknd's Raycon's cringy performance, but at the end of the day, The Idol is just bad TV. It's boring and underdeveloped, it has a story that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and it can't even seem to pull off this mediocre story in the first place. All because it's more interested in getting you to talk about it than getting you to care about its tragic characters. It is fun in a bad way, I'll give it that, but you can get all the fun stuff from clips on Twitter. That way you don't have to sit through the snooze fest that is most of the show. All in all, this was kind of a waste of time, if you can't tell, but I at least hope it's a wake-up call to most of the people involved. The very existence of this show says way more about how the industry operates than anything the show says itself. So thanks for watching. Go watch The Idol and form your own opinion, except maybe don't, and before you head out, I want to thank this week's sponsor, Raycon. This summer, you're probably going to be doing some outdoor activities like hitting the beach, traveling, on the go nonstop. And because of their great battery life, their amazing sound, and their comfortable fit, Raycons are perfect for wherever you go. Raycon is disrupting the electronics community by making great sound for everyone. Their wireless earbuds start at half the price of other premium audio brands, plus they have seamless Bluetooth pairing and a more compact design, which makes it so that they fit a lot more comfortable in your ear, and they give you all the noise isolation you need. Which reminds me, you can use the earbud tap function to toggle between 3 customizable sound profiles, noise isolation, and awareness mode, and you can make them super customizable. They offer their wireless earbuds in a range of fun colors and patterns with a variety of fit options and no dangling wires or stems. This company was co-founded by Ray J, and celebrities like Snoop Dogg, we all know Snoop Dogg, oh, they're obsessed with these things. Not to mention, Raycon has a 30-day free return policy. So far, I've been using them nonstop this summer, whether I'm on the go, doing some chores around the house, or just working out. Click the link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/Karsten to get 15% off of your Raycon purchase.